This and every episode of REKT Podcast is brought to you by Beaksy Exchange, an upcoming cryptocurrency exchange built in collaboration with One Market Data. Beaksy is bringing legacy finance speed, power, and sophistication to crypto for the first time. With 225,000 transactions per second per pair, comparable to NASDAQ, 15 order types on day one, with 25 order types on full rollout, and a dedicated customer support team, Beaksy is setting itself apart from the competition. Check out Beaksy today at Beaksy.com and pre-register today at Beaksy.com/registration to get your free Beaksy Exchange tokens. That's Beaksy.com, BEAXY.com.
I'm Bitcoin Dad, and this is REKT.
Hello and welcome to REKT Podcast. I am Bunchu alongside my esteemed colleague and co-host Crypto Chamber. Chamber, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good today. It's Mother's Day. I don't know about you, but I had a weekend of, slaving away, making dinners and elaborate meals and buying ridiculous amounts of flowers for all the mothers in my life. And, it's pretty expensive. Thanks.
You're one of the only mothers in my life. You know what I mean?
I hear you. Man.
What better way to celebrate Mother's Day than to have a father on?
That's right.
And so on our Mother's Day episode here, we have the one and only Bitcoin Dad. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Awesome. How was the Mother's Day over there?
It's not bad. I'm glad I was able to pull it off, but busy. Spending. I got to pamper the wife and make sure the kids show appreciation to their mom. But so far so good. Can't complain.
Absolutely. We so happy Mother's Day out there to all the moms and the crypto moms out there that spend all their time giving their children and their husbands all the love that we need with while we probably lose all of our money.
Yeah. We need extra mom love during the bear market.
Absolutely. But we are maybe seeing some turnaround here, like officially. It's been an interesting weekend. Chamber, are you giddy?
I'm at a loss for words. I feel like it was only last week we were talking about, there was an article, I think that stated that there was a chance we could get to 11.5. And I think we were talking like, man, if we saw like 7,300 in 2019, we'd be pretty happy. And we saw it, I think a week later, which was insane. So,
yeah, I think we said it at the time, which was, I think, last Monday we recorded, and it was under 6,000.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Which is insane. So, Bitcoin Dad, what are your thoughts about what's been going on in the market?
I think it's great. I've been hoping for some kind of turnaround for some time now. So to see, a good 100% bounce from kind of the low where it was, it's pretty optimistic. So personally, I would like to see altcoins react a little bit better, but just kind of how it goes sometimes.
I would second that thought.
Chamber's been waiting for alt season
for
so long.
Yeah.
Chamber, you had a bullish alt season tweet today.
I did.
I think that's what it was. I couldn't really decipher.
It was just the reworkings of Smells Like Teen Spirit to Smells Like Alt Season.
I see. I didn't catch that at first.
It wasn't. You know what? As I reread it, it wasn't as noticeable. I'm like, I don't think people are getting that this is just Smells Like Teen Spirit.
I did not. So you just enlightened me.
And you're a pretty witty guy too. So I mean, if you didn't get it.
You need some song parody. You need some song parody advice from Bitcoin Florida Gator, who puts out all those wonderful song parodies about Bitcoin and makes those videos that I think are just hilarious. So shout out to him. But anyway, all right, let's get into it. So Bitcoin Dad, you've been around crypto for quite some time. Give our listeners a little bit of your background. How did you get into crypto? Where, how did you get to where you are today?
Well, just a random article one day while I was at my full-time job, which I probably should have been working rather than surfing the net. But I just saw an article on Yahoo and read about Bitcoin. And at the time, this was late 2013, so it was pushing the high at that point. It was all-time high, over $1,000. So I ended up going down that rabbit hole and decided to buy some Bitcoin, and immediately, ended up going into alts. And, that's just kind of been my game plan since day one, is to trade altcoins in order to get more Bitcoin.
So what really fascinated you about crypto and Bitcoin in general that kind of got you to jump in? Was it, hey, this could make me money, or hey, this tech is cool, or hey, what? Maybe it related to something that you did in your full-time job, anything like that?
No, not at all. I mean, I work full-time in the insurance industry, so really no IT background or InfoSec, or, you see a lot of those guys, getting, gravitating to Bitcoin. It was just something I thought the tech, was pretty cool. I know a lot of things were going digital. Everybody's using cell phones and stuff like that. And obviously felt that there was an opportunity to make money also. Obviously being in the game for 5 years now, it's less about the money and more about, Bitcoin and seeing it succeed.
Sure. So once you jumped into Bitcoin, I assume obviously then that was the first thing you bought. What got you, how did you decide, now I can trade alts, and how did you learn that process and things like that?
Oh, yeah. It was a long time after that before I really felt confident with the trade I was making. I have no kind of stock market background. When I was in my early 20s, I kind of messed around with penny stocks, and I always had an interest in the stock market itself, but no technical analysis type of background or education when it comes to that type of stuff. So definitely a learning curve had to take place. But I initially bought Litecoin, and I ended up sending it to a supposed web wallet, and it was a scam site that took my money right away. So it was a hard lesson right off the get-go. It was like, oh, where's my 11 Litecoin? So definitely was one of those noobs. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. So from there, did you learn how to trade? Did you learn TA, or were you more looking at the fundamentals of these other coins? How did you kind of navigate your way as a noob?
Yeah, the technical analysis is really not my specialty. I focused on fundamentals. At the time, obviously from 2014, 2015 to now, a lot of that stuff's changed. Back then it was like, oh, wow, they're accepted at, these merchants or at this shop, or, stuff like that really kind of pumped the price versus, the type of things we're seeing now, and the price doesn't even budge. So it definitely took time. It definitely took a lot of losses and hard lessons. But, even now, I don't think anybody's perfect by any means. I don't care how good of a trader you are, you're going to make mistakes. So even to this day, there's mistakes that I make and try to learn from.
So how have you evolved your strategy? Are you, what kind of strategies do you take before you jump into either one of these alts or make a Bitcoin trade? Or I guess, do you even trade Bitcoin? Or are you only trading alts for Bitcoin? How do you see yourself now, and what's your strategy now?
Yep. I don't trade Bitcoin. I don't leverage or anything like that. I'll just buy on spot type of thing. But, I learned early on another lesson as a noob. Leverage trading wasn't for me. OKCoin came out around, that time. Everybody was kind of going towards that, and, learned real quick that it wasn't for me, to trade like that. So I decided just to focus full time pretty much on alts. And just do some due diligence on the team, the community, what they're offering. Is it something unique? And if it's already been launched for some time, have they reached their milestones, or how do they communicate? How's the marketing? So things like that is kind of what I look at. Obviously I want to see results, from a project and the developers, and that they keep their word. Like, hey, this quarter we plan on doing X, Y, and Z. Let's make sure it happens too. So those are things I kind of look at. Obviously, on a new launch, you're taking more of a risk, but the reward could be much, much greater.
Sure. Chamber, this is a question, I guess. I don't even know if I know the answer from you. When you're pretty deep in alts, that you make no doubt or qualms about that. Are you mostly trading charts, or are you, what's your alt strategy?
I'm going to tell you, I've been getting
following
peppered.
Everything Nitacoin does.
More or less. I just follow what Nitacoin does, more or less. I have been getting fucking peppered lately on alts with what's happening with Bitcoin. I would say last couple of months of 2018 and then the first couple of months of 2019, I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I just got wrecked again with the last bleed out. So I don't know. I think I got to restructure my strategy, but.
What were you doing that worked, and what were you doing that you think doesn't work?
What works is wait till everybody is just absolutely, done with a coin. You know what I mean? Where the talk is, or just wait for that chart to just be just absolute garbage, and then buy a little bit of it. That seems to work well, and then. I've been doing a lot of small caps on like Bittrex and IDEX, and that has worked well a little bit. So I think that strategy has been working a little bit better for me.
So Bitcoin Dad, how many, it sounds like you're, pretty deep in alts as well. How many, bags are you holding at any one time?
It just depends, but probably around 25 to 30. I don't go too crazy. I know Nitacoin has quite a collection going on himself. But that stuff's really hard for me to track all those coins. So I'd rather focus on a solid, 30 coins or so, and able to keep a closer eye on them rather than
I take that similar approach. I like Nita's strategy, but he does have a lot of bags, so I like 30. I'd say somewhere between 30 and 45 bags at a time, and then just kind of taking profit and buying new ones, kind of thing.
30 to 45, my God.
now that number could change, because obviously during a bull run you have a lot of excess capital, right. I guess you could say. So then you just start throwing things everywhere, and that could definitely change your stance too. But right now, only about 25 to 30.
So when do you determine that it is that it's time to flip those bags and either take profit, or as you mentioned, maybe you're in a bull run and you're taking profit from one and throwing it into something that maybe hasn't done as well yet? When do you make that determination?
Those are hard. Those are hard. I've missed out on massive profits for selling too early. But I think a lot of people do take this position as far as you still keep a little bit of it, so maybe you don't feel as bad if you do sell a majority of your bag, but it still goes up another 10 times, So I kind of like doing that strategy to where, I'll take some off the table. I wouldn't say 100% where a lot of people, hey, half on a double, 100% they take half off the table and then you got a free bag. I usually like to try to ride it out as long as I can. I guess it really just depends on the momentum at the time and where things are going and how the volume's looking, and then determine, how much I'm going to offload, and then, always keep a little stash of something on the side just in case it still goes crazy.
Keep the moon bag.
Yes.
Awesome.
Definitely.
What advice would you have for either anybody starting out now, or maybe that hasn't traded a ton of altcoins in the past? What advice would you give somebody?
I would say just to hang in there. I know it could be a little frustrating at times, especially with the way the alts have been performing, and you're kind of losing money from the get-go. But I would suggest to, be involved in a project if you can. Be in their Discord or follow their Twitter, just to see the interaction of the developer, the community, what's going on, what updates are happening. Obviously, get in the middle of that stuff and don't be afraid to ask questions. More than likely, the team or developer will answer those for you. They're usually very open about that stuff. So I would say, and I feel that Twitter does help. Follow the right people and, get into projects, follow what they're doing, get into their channels, and, just keep up on what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. So we wouldn't be REKT Podcast if we didn't ask you some of your best crypto REKT stories. So sounds like, when you got involved in 2013, you might have a couple from back in the day. Care to share any with our audience and make them feel better about their
Oh, definitely. Yeah. There's way too many to mention them all, but there's been times to where, in the middle of the night, there used to be coins that would launch that would have hidden pre-mines, and of course this would happen during a European time, that was during the day. So, I'm sleeping, I wake up and my bag's completely destroyed. But there was a time, and it's something I mentioned before, and some of the people who've been around a little longer might know about it, but there was a time where I was going to quit all trading altogether. I was just going to kind of sell what I had. I had to pay bills. I got wrecked on a bunch of different launches that happened, and it was just pretty much in the dumps. So I was pretty much about to hang them up and say, hey, I'm done. And Crypto Cobain stepped up and started this Bitcoin Dad trading fund. And everybody at the time, I want to say maybe there was 30 people, 25 people that ended up donating to this address. They raised like a Bitcoin and a half, and pretty much the reason why I'm still here today. If it wasn't for that fund, I guess you could call it, I would have just hung it up and really not have any capital to trade with, and it really worked out well for me.
I totally forgot about that story. I had heard it. I had heard you talk about it, or heard it from some other, maybe another podcast you did or something, and I totally forgot about it until you just mentioned it. It's one of the more remarkable stories, I think, that I've heard, because you see over and over and over the opposite happen on Twitter, where people are, scamming other people, or exit scamming, or all that kind of stuff, and or like these, the so-and-so quote unquote paid group leaders exit scamming, things like that. And this is just the complete opposite, and it really shows that there is some good out there in the community, especially Cobain, which is he's a very polarizing crypto figure. So I think that's pretty cool as well.
Definitely. So that's why I think I'm kind of where I'm at, where I'm more than willing to try to help people out if I can, give them advice or steer them in the right direction, because that's kind of, to me, that's kind of what it's all about, is trying to help others if you can. It's kind of, pay it forward almost. So, it was really cool that the community was so tight-knit back then, since we were so small. But I still like to try to do that stuff today, and don't forget that has happened in the past. Like, I'm not better than that by any means. I was in a rough spot at some point also.
Sure, that's pretty cool. Chamber, any thoughts?
That's how you said it was tight-knit back then. I feel after 2018 that the community has shrunk probably substantially, but you're like how much smaller than today would it have been?
Oh, I mean, back then it wasn't really like Slack channels or Discord. It was like on IRC, which I personally didn't jump into that much. I mainly did my communication on Twitter or maybe Slack. But it was, I hate to give a number, but it was very low. I mean, at the time, people like myself who has 109,000 followers on Twitter now had maybe 5,000. It was very small. I would say maybe 100 people. That I guess you would consider OGs.
Right.
that all around the world, you know, and it's just,
that's crazy.
We just kind of went through the same crap, you know. We went through the scam ICOs, we went through the bullshit ninja launches that had hidden pre-mines, and you know, guys that just ran off with money day one, and hacks, and so I think that's kind of what has us kind of tied together too, that we went through all that baloney before, and just kind of brought us closer together.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I think it's interesting. What's your opinion on, you know, ICOs now? I'm sure it's changed a lot since what they look like, and just the attitude towards them from, you know, when you first started out.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of ICOs. I'm really not. I mean, during the last bull run, I was throwing a lot of dumb money at it. You know, it's just kind of one of those things to where you had the capital, you made a bunch of money, you're like, all right, you know, ICOs are selling out in 10 seconds. Really not for me. I would really need to see something that blows me out of the water to say, hey, you know, I really want to invest in this project. Otherwise, I'm content with mining a coin. I feel that that's a little more motivating for the team rather than, hey, here's $30 million. How motivated are you going to be to make this product, you know, versus, hey, we have a small pre-mine, maybe no pre-mine at all, we launched it, we're making progress. The developer has a little more incentive to make sure that there's a success. So that's kind of my take on it. I would rather not give somebody a paycheck up front for really not seeing any of their work, versus somebody who's going to be working alongside you because they have the same interest that you do, and to try to make the project a success.
Sure. Similar opinion to, I guess, these initial exchange offerings that are popping up everywhere?
Yeah, and, you know, going ICOs and the IEOs, you know, a lot of it I think is going to be off limits to the United States. So, you know, even if I wanted to get into one, chances are I might not even be able to.
Sure, absolutely. Cool. Chamber, any other questions before we get into the news here?
No, I'm good. This has been pretty good so far.
Awesome. So we are going to move on and get into some news. Chamber buddy, start us off with some news that's going on in the world today.
So this article I read earlier today, and now I'm trying to open it up again, and CCN, I don't know if it's removed it maybe, but I read it cool. It earlier, so I'll try to recount it from memory. This is absolute critical news here. Bitcoin Jesus preaches a libertarian gospel of crypto and crack cocaine. So what? Yeah, exactly. So the gist of this article. So
Bitcoin Jesus being Roger Ver, I'm guessing.
Yes, exactly. So this is Roger Ver, and he's talking about Ross Ulbricht, obviously the gentleman in maximum security prison right now for some questionable
Silk Road
charges, yes. And obviously he is not a fan of these non-violent offenders going to prison for life. And basically he was equating alcohol and marijuana to crack cocaine and basically saying that everything should be legal.
Wait, that sounds the opposite.
No, that's exactly.
He's saying that crack cocaine should be legal.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's saying all drugs should be legal.
Yep.
And
which you probably would say is a thing that makes sense.
I would lean. I think that makes a lot more sense. I know there's a country off the top of my head. I want to say it's Portugal, but it's probably not.
Chamberville.
No. There's a country in Europe, a smaller country in Europe, that legalized all drugs, so heroin, cocaine, all that fun stuff, and they had a significant drop in usage across the country, and all the money that they were spending, or not even all the money, a fraction of the money that they were spending in trying to police the issue, they put a small fraction of that into trying to give people help and trying to get over the drug addiction problems and whatnot, and provide safe needle drop offs and whatnot, and seeing some positive stuff from it. So I kind of tend to lean that way. There's a lot of non-violent offenders in the prison systems, and you could probably clean a lot of that up.
So the gist of this, though, was he was saying that Ross shouldn't be in jail for life because he's a non-violent offender.
Correct.
on essentially drug charges,
right? Drug charges,
and that all drugs should be legal. So this is ludicrous. Is essentially
the crux of the argument.
Interesting. Bitcoin Dad, any thoughts on the Silk Road? That was probably around. That's around that time, right?
I want to say that was
5 years.
Yeah, I would say that was right before I kind of got into things, but it definitely seems like Ross is the fall guy here. I hate to see it, but I'm not too familiar with all the legalities and the story behind it, but definitely seems pretty tough on my end, to have a life sentence. So maybe Kim Kardashian can help out and, get him free.
It's like two consecutive life sentences on top of each other.
That's bananas.
And plus 30 years or something, which is just piling on.
It seems like they were trying to make an example of him. It was one of those early on things. They really didn't know what Bitcoin was all about. Obviously, Silk Road was transmitting a bunch of different things or being a platform to do so. But it almost seemed like they wanted to make an example just because it was like Bitcoin related, and to kind of, I don't know. I think the government's scared of Bitcoin in general, so I think that was their opportunity to really hit somebody hard with something that was related to Bitcoin.
Oh, they are, and we're going to get to that right now. The next news story we're going to is from Cointelegraph, and I'm sure you've probably seen this. The U.S. Representative Sherman calls for crypto ban, says it threatens to diminish American power. So this was the other day. It was at the hearing, and there was a video that was going around. I think CoinDesk maybe tweeted it out. But United States Congressman Brad Sherman, who's from California, has called on all of his colleagues to ban and outlaw cryptocurrencies, saying that they threaten to disempower American foreign policy and diminish the rule of law. So essentially, it wasn't CoinDesk, it was Coin Center that tweeted this out, and he this was on May 9th, and in his comments, he said that lawmakers must act preemptively to impede the threat posed by cryptocurrencies and outlaw essentially all American purchases of crypto by any American citizens. He says here that crypto's threat forebodes no less than a shakeup of America's geopolitical influence due to its potential diminishing of the power of its sovereign currency. So he's quoted here. Chamber, you watched this video?
I did.
It's really interesting because he literally flat out says, this is a quote, "An awful lot of our international power stems from the fact that the dollar is the standard unit of international finance and transactions. It is the announced purpose of the supporters of cryptocurrencies to take that power away from us." And then he basically says here that key global markets such as oil, clearing the New York Federal Reserve, remains critical for major transactions. He also says that there's negative impacts of crypto should they gain transaction as a global unit of value, stating that an extra-national distributed digital world currency, aka Bitcoin, would put us in the position where significant sanctions we have on Iran, for example, would become irrelevant. So basically he's saying he's making this plea to say to his colleagues that we should ban crypto for U.S. citizens because it threatens, the dollar, essentially. And if the dollar is threatened, the government would be threatened and the U.S. would be weakened. He also claimed that, this would make it harder for us to impose, global sanctions and collect taxes and things like that. He called people that supported ICOs or did ICOs charlatans and scammers.
Wow.
That's it.
So
Charlatans and Scammers is a great band name.
Yeah.
And so, Sherman, definitely not a big fan of crypto. So I think Bitcoin Dad, your assumption that the government is afraid of crypto is correct. I mean, maybe not everybody, but this guy for sure. Any thoughts?
Yeah, don't get me started on this guy. I saw that and I was like, oh man. And then I saw he's a representative in California. I'm like, yeah, go figure. I live in California. I'm over it. So I'm like, yeah, I figure it's the guy from California too. So, I'm kind of speechless when it comes to that guy. I mean, instead of embracing the technology and seeing the use. I hate to see the country that I live in kind of, a lot of people, not see the same vision that a lot of other people do. So I would like to see a little more positivity when it comes to cryptocurrencies, kind of get his points, but, we live in a free country, and that shouldn't even be an issue.
Like I've seen some government officials, U.S. government officials, be very pro crypto and Bitcoin.
Yes.
This is really the only guy, and then and there's maybe two guys I can think of off the top of my head.
And Elizabeth Warren, she hates.
Does she really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, she went out. She had a similar rant.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
maybe she's old too. I guess maybe the old people don't like it. But he to me just seems obviously in the pockets of somebody. You know what I mean? Like it just. Yeah, it's just a weird argument. Yeah, it's just a weird argument to have and be so, vehement about.
Well, I mean, some of the reason you want Bitcoin is for exactly the opposite reasons of why he wants the ban on it, right? Like,
right.
He's not wrong in the sense that, this would devalue the dollar, and if the dollar is devalued,
but doesn't the dollar devalue anyways?
Yes, but I think his point is right, but that's from a direct value of itself, right? But it's still the world reserve currency. So if the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency, he has a point of, okay, well, that gives the U.S. a lot less power.
But what happens
in a bunch of other things? But isn't that kind of the point too? It's like, we're not trying to be socialists here, but we're not, if his point is, the U.S. can't swing its dick around as heavily. I mean, okay.
We chop a third of that thing off.
Right. Right. Exactly, Chamber. It's not the
Who's
size
chopping
of
off
the
a third
boat.
of their dick right now?
It's not the size of the boat. It's the motion in the ocean.
That's right.
Chamber. Just ask John McAfee. He'll have to deal with this soon enough.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh man, you got another story for us? I don't remember.
I do. I got HTC. A company that brought out a smartphone that was pro crypto will be coming out with a new $300 smartphone, the Exodus 1S, and this phone will be able to apparently run a full Bitcoin node. So HTC plans to launch a second generation of the Exodus 1 blockchain smartphone by 2019, according to the company's chief decentralized officer Phil Chen. The upcoming Exodus 1S will provide more support for decentralized browsing, messaging, and social media apps, and also dApps. But that's not all. The second generation blockchain phone will also be able to run a full Bitcoin node, HTC said this Saturday. So I don't know how much battery power it takes to run a full node, but I don't know. We'll see. Did you guys see the first gen of this phone?
I remember being on a wait list because I think it was announced at last year's consensus, and then I didn't really hear too much of it actually launching. I don't really remember. But I think one of the other cool points in this is that, their vision is kind of for this new decentralized web, where you will not only be able to own your own, funds and finances on such a phone, but also your own identity and your own data. And, this may lead to a, personal data. So this may lead to a future where, we're getting paid for our data as opposed to Apple and Google and all of that. Just
I feel like this is just this feels just like an episode of Silicon Valley. Is this the exact same storyline?
Yeah, Gavin Belson versus the world.
Right. I feel like we're just independent, free internet for everybody through your cell phone, and the cell phone's on the network. Is that about right? I'm pretty sure that was
it's basically the idea of what those guys were trying to do is the decentralized internet. So, Bitcoin Dad, have you seen this phone?
I haven't seen the HTC phone. No, I won't. I actually bought an S10 with the anticipation of trying to utilize the blockchain keys they had there for Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't know if it was just my cell provider, but I got the phone and it wasn't downloaded there. So I gave up at that point. I'm like, this is the only selling point that I had, so I ended up returning it and went back to my old phone. So I don't know what the problem was with the S10, and like I said, maybe it's just my cell provider, but it wasn't on the phone itself, and they said there would have to be something that was going to be pushed out from Samsung at some later date, and I'm like, I'm not going to wait around for that. Yeah, so I was a little bummed out.
To your point, Chamber, it does say here that obviously if you can hold all this info on your phone, the only limits are space and computing power, but all of that will be in the next few years you'll have that all in the palm of your hand, which is interesting. So maybe the Exodus, this one isn't the one you want, but 2 years from now,
give me like a 4
is the one you want.
Exodus 4S.
exactly All right, I got one more here just because of the recent price action here.
And for the record, we're not calling it consensus pump, right? Is that?
I'm not, because guess what? Consensus hasn't started yet.
That's right. I hope it dumps at consensus.
When it starts tomorrow, we may have a bloody Monday, so who knows? But anyway, so this last one here from ccn.com, Bitcoin price will hit 500,000 because it beats gold, says hedge fund chief. So this is actually, I guess, a quote from Mark Yusko, which is the co-founder of Morgan Creek Digital, which you may also know because of Pomp, who also works for
That's who I know that works there.
Yes. So Yusko is the other guy. But he said in a recent interview with Blocks Live that the price of Bitcoin could eventually hit 500,000 thanks to its scarce supply, increasing demand, and advantages over safe haven investments such as gold. So I think this is interesting because last week we talked about, the Fidelity platform coming out and the survey they did with institutional investors, and how, about 50% were already looking at stuff in to hold Bitcoin and digital assets, and that they thought it was a lot of profit to be had here. So I think it's interesting, but the real question is, will people see Bitcoin like gold? Bitcoin Dad, any thoughts there?
I would not be unhappy if that were to come true. I like those optimistic price forecasts. I'm a Bitcoin bull overall, so anything's possible. Definitely is a lot of money from where we are now, but in the future, I'm not ruling really any kind of price that people are putting out there, as crazy. So
a question for you.
I'm open to it.
Yeah. So when you in 2013, what was the price when you got in?
I want to say it was around 900.
So did you ever, at the time, did you ever think you would see a $20,000 Bitcoin or even a $5,000 Bitcoin?
Nope, never. And I remember when it hit like 2,000, I sold a bunch. Like, oh man, this is great, perfect. Because at the time, I bought it 900. It went to 1,000, 1,100. Then it went back down to 180 or something like that. So,
right.
So when it hit 2,000, 3,000, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. So, after that bull run, really nothing is going to surprise me at this point.
Interesting. Yeah, I always think that's funny because it's like I bet like guys that were around that long ago didn't. I know it's only 5 years, but it seems like forever. But like
ancient Mesopotamia.
Right. You probably didn't think that 20,000 was ever a thing that was going to happen. Like,
let alone within 5 years. You know what I mean? It's
right.
like, okay, maybe 10 years, 20 years from now, sure, yeah, no problem. But, like, hey, within the next 5 years, this is going to change my life. I'm going to be where I am now. I would have never thought about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I always laugh when I see, $500,000 price targets because we were just at 5,000 a week ago. But I tend to agree with you that, anything's possible. And if it starts, if adoption happens and more people are investing or more institutions are coming in, and we all know that this happens quickly too. In a week we've gone up to $2,500. So once it starts happening, it's going to happen, and I think that's because of the scarcity that it's going to happen quickly. So I think it's exciting. So anyone out there that doesn't have a ton of Bitcoin, and you're like, man, I really need more Bitcoin, maybe one or two is all you need. So work towards that. You know what I mean? So, Chamber. So with that said, you're only like 0.9 away from
I'm I just got into the 0.1s.
Man,
nice. I just got a 10x from here. We'll be good.
Awesome. So, all right, that's going to do it for our news. We are going to have some fun with Bitcoin Dad, and we are going to jump into a draft. So, Bitcoin Dad, what we do here is we like to, have some fun with our guests when we have them on. Not all crypto talk. We like to, get to know our guests a little better and have some fun. So what we like to do is draft, do a little mock fantasy draft of certain categories. We've done everything from superheroes to movies to Thanksgiving foods, all that kind of stuff. But we have Bitcoin Dad on. So we were thinking, let's draft our greatest all-time TV dads. So anybody that you've ever watched on television who was a dad or played a dad character on TV is up for grabs. The way we're going to do this, it's going to go snake draft. We're going to pick four teams of four. So you're going to go first, and then it'll go me, and then Chamber will go twice, then back to me, and then you'll have two picks until we all have teams of four filled. So Chamber, you going to write these down?
I got it. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So, Bitcoin Dad, you are on the clock with the TV Dads draft.
All right. Well, you're not a dad unless you can handle a bunch of kids. So, Mike Brady has got to be my number one pick.
Wow,
the Brady bunch.
Good one. And, maybe an extra special dad because not all of them were his.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, Mike Brady going one overall. That's an interesting one. I had that on my list, Chambers.
I had him on my list. I had to scratch him off.
All right, so Mike Brady is down. I have so many that I want to pick here, but I'm trying to. So what we do here, Bitcoin Dad, is we'll put this poll out on Twitter tomorrow also, and we'll have the people vote on who's got the best draft. So, there's a little strategy here as well. I'm going to go with, an animated TV dad, actually.
No, you're not. Don't you do it.
This is going to make Chamber very upset. That he is not going to be able to get Homer Simpson. I'm going with Homer Simpson as my first television dad.
That is upsetting.
Was he going in your first two? If I didn't pick him?
100%.
Yeah, that was more to block you than
that was okay.
Else.
You know what? I have some backups. With my first pick, am going to go with. He was a father on the show, but you may all know him as Uncle Phil.
Oh, is that the one we were talking about before?
100%. Yeah.
That's not who I was
That's
thinking.
not who you had.
No.
Interesting. We were talking about the legitimacies of fatherhood for these candidates, and I was thinking Uncle Phil, but I didn't want to say it out loud. But I thought we were talking the same person, so that's
Uncle
interesting.
Phil is on my list. Obviously, no longer on my list. All right, who's your second?
My second pick. I think I'm going to have to go with the one I resemble the most, and that's Dan Connor from Roseanne.
Wow, interesting. That's not where I had you going with your first two picks. Okay, so my turn again. I'm going with, if you're really a good dad if you can take care of things around the house, and there's probably no handier dad than Tim, the Toolman Taylor.
Wow.
Second choice.
Triple
Tool
T.
time. Yeah,
Good one.
that's it. So I got Homer Simpson and Tim, the Toolman Taylor.
Wow.
Bitcoin Dad, you have 2 picks now.
Oh, 2 picks. Wow, okay. Well, I'm going to go on the total opposite spectrum from the good old wholesome Brady family. And they might need a little backup. They might need some muscle. So I'm going to go with Tony Soprano.
Great choice.
Oh, good
Great
one.
choice. On my list, I thought I was going to be able to get him.
Oh, that's a very good one. All right, so Mike Brady and Tony Soprano. Who's your third?
I'm going to say, these picks, Mr. Drummond from, what was the TV? With Willis and Different Strokes.
Different strokes.
Yeah.
Mr. Drummond, if you can adopt, 2 kids.
That's true. That's a good point.
In that high-rise, nice New York, penthouse suite they had, hey.
Yeah, they had the
good
easy
guy.
life.
Yeah.
Takes a good dad to do that.
So who's your list so far? You have Mike Brady, Tony Soprano, and Mr. Drummond. That's a pretty
You got
solid
it.
list. All right. Now, for my third one here, he's probably not the best dad. He raised a son that hates him, and he's a neurotic guy, and he's got a lot of problems with you people. I'm going Frank Costanza for my third pick.
Great choice.
All right.
It's perverse.
Festivus for the rest of us. All right, Chamber, you are finishing out your draft here.
All right. I'm going to
You
go.
have 2 picks to end it.
I went with 2 90s dads that made you feel warm and fuzzy. I was watching the clip from when Will and Uncle Phil had the dramatic cry in the living room the other day. Man, if that doesn't bring you to tears, I don't know what does, man. That's some good television. But I'm going to go to the other side of the room and pick Walter White with my third pick.
Oh. I was waiting to see if somebody would pick him. He's on my list, but I'm like, all right, I don't know what makes a good TV dad. Is it just that you want to watch them, or do they have to be a good dad?
He was a good dad. He was a good dad.
That's why I started cooking meth.
100%. He was going to die, and was not going to be able to provide for his family. The life insurance policy wasn't there. His middling science teacher salary was garbage, and he had a talent and used his talents to provide for his family.
Should have just bought Bitcoin.
He should have just bought Bitcoin. With my last pick, however.
All right, so give your last pick and then recite your whole team.
With my last pick, I'm going with possibly the best father on television right now.
Oh, no.
And that's Ned Stark.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Twist. I was not ready for that. I didn't think you were going to go there.
I'm thinking Ned Stark, this guy raises the best kids. I mean, really, at the end of the day, these kids are the best kids you could have. One that was not his own. Yeah, and also raised his, well, I'm going to spoil, but yeah, his non-son.
Right. That's what I was getting at there. Okay, so who's your whole team?
So I have Uncle Phil, from Fresh Prince. I got Dan Connor from Roseanne. I got Walter White from Breaking Bad, and I got Ned Stark from Game of Thrones.
That's a hot list.
I
realized I've gone full comedy dads here, but I think I'm sticking with one more.
You got Homer.
Yeah, I got Homer, Costanza, Tim Taylor, and now, I'm within two here that I really... I want to pick the one that I thought you were going to say.
You have to almost.
Because you're going to be pissed that you didn't take it after this, I think.
I wonder if I have it written down.
And the other one I have is definitely a 90s dad that hasn't been said yet that should be. He'll be value if he doesn't go in the draft, but on the free agent market. But I'm going to go with it because this is my favorite television show. I'm going with Frank Reynolds.
Frank Reynolds is
from
the best
Always
dad.
Sunny in Philadelphia.
You got two Franks.
Yeah, but that's who I thought you were going with for Uncle Phil, because you were talking about because he's not Dee and Dennis's dad,
That's
but he
right.
could be Charlie's dad.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good point. No, I was actually thinking Uncle Phil.
Interesting. So my full team is Homer Simpson, George Costanza, Tim Taylor, and Frank Reynolds. That's a high quality.
That is
team.
a good team.
All right, Bitcoin Dad, last pick for you.
All right, top it off. Maybe because I relate to this gentleman and his pain at times. Al Bundy.
Oh, that was a great one. That's a great one.
I was going to be surprised if he was left out there.
Yeah.
So, who's your full team?
I have Mike Brady, Tony Soprano, Mr. Drummond, and Al Bundy.
Oh, that's a solid team too. Wow, we all have really good
TV
teams.
dads.
Shit.
I didn't realize there were so many quality ones out there.
So ones that I had down that didn't get picked. Danny Tanner was the one that I was just thinking of possibly for my last pick from Full House. The other cartoon one, obviously Peter Griffin, and then I actually had Michael Bluth written down from Arrested Development.
I had Michael Bluth. I also had Carl Winslow written down.
Oh,
yeah. With Urkel.
Yeah, I thought that was a good dad.
Yeah, he's a good dad. Any other ones that you had written down that didn't get chosen?
I had Dr. Jason Seaver from Growing Pains.
Growing Pains.
Old school. Yeah.
Oh well, he's from like my neck of the woods too. Like that's a local hero where we come from.
That's Canadian. That's, right, exactly. Now, unfortunately, all you have left is
his son.
Right, exactly. What a good draft. This is going to be a tough one. I don't know who's got the favorite team here, but we'll see. So, we will put that out on Twitter tomorrow, or when this podcast airs, and the people will decide. Chamber usually doesn't do too well in these drafts, but I think he's got a really good shot at this one, actually. But and our guests typically fare very well.
Yeah, I was going to say they win the majority of the time.
And if the guest doesn't win, I usually win.
I definitely don't win.
Anyway, all right, man. Well, that's all we had. So we want to make sure that we give you, one more opportunity to talk about anything that you might be working on, anything that you want people to know about you. Where can people find you? Anything like that?
Well, obviously, Twitter is probably the best place to get in contact with me. You can follow me at Bitcoin_dad. Other than that, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I recently did join a project in a core contributor type of capacity, and that's Mochimo. So I'm really excited about the project, and I've been very picky in regards to who I do or don't work with, and there really hasn't been really any project at all till now that I publicly have my name out there as a part of the team. So
tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I'm really excited about it. It was actually launched almost a year ago. It was June of last year. Quantum proof type of features. Ultimately, no ICO. Right now, they are working on an update because there is FPGA miners out there that has infiltrated the system. I guess there is some option now to mine Mochimo. So they are currently working on a fork which would permanently prevent ASIC and FPGA mining, which will be big because initially it was just GPUs and CPUs. So there is a lot of sell pressure right now due to that, and I feel that will be taken care of with the fork. I'm really excited with the team. I've talked to them right at their launch and just decided about 3 months ago that I wanted to join the team. Very professional, and really, I'm really impressed with the way that they're handling things. So they're really not out to get listed on all these exchanges quite yet. They're waiting until the time is right. So I feel confident that it's not just one of those coins that, hey, let's go on and do whatever it takes to get on as many exchanges as possible. Let's pump the price. Let's dump it. Let's get our money and run. So I'm glad they're taking a slow approach to this. They're really taking their time and making sure everything's right. The legality, especially being in the United States, they're very they respect that a lot. So I feel very confident being a part of the team, and really excited with what they got going on here. So in the next couple weeks, there's going to be a lot of updates. They're going to revamp the wallet, the fork, and they're going to finally release the API, which I know a lot of exchanges have been waiting for. So could potentially see some fireworks from it here shortly, or definitely some positive growth.
Very cool. Do you hear? Did you hear that sound? I think it was the sound of Chamber just market buying.
I don't know how to. I'm like,
you better go. You better go into OTC channels, because I think right now it's just
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you have to go OTC
or just start mining, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
Holy smokes!
You have to battle with the FPGAs though. So I don't know. You might want to wait till last fork to do that. I don't know if you can hang with those guys.
I don't think I can. I'm going to be honest.
You can't. Awesome. So we will put a link to that in the show notes for sure. But any parting thoughts, Chamber?
No, I'm just now laser focused on getting some Mochimo bags somehow.
41 bags now after this.
Yeah, 41 bags.
Awesome, man. Well, Bitcoin Dad, it's been awesome having you on. We really appreciate your time. That was a lot of fun. To everybody, make sure you check him out. Check out Mochimo. We will put it in the show notes for everybody. And Chamber, that's about it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to thank all the dads out there on this. I just want to thank Bitcoin Dad, obviously, for coming on. We really appreciate it, especially on it is Mother's Day today, so I don't know how we all managed to get on the line together. So thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So again, happy Mother's Day. By the time this comes out, it will be belated Mother's Day, but you guys deserve more than one day a year anyway. So
3 days you guys get now.
Yes. And, until next time, don't get wrecked, and that is financial advice, and we are not Raptor Jesus. Thank you.